It's Saturday morning on the farm. The sun is shining. It's the last week of winter. It doesn't get much better than this. Beautiful late winter day, all the chores that I can think of that have to be dealt with, all the anticipation of farming, taking care of this big piece of property, working the land, getting the gardens ready to plant. It's so exciting, and there's always something to do on the farm, whether it's planning or planting or just surveying the property for wind damage and fixing fences and tending to the garden plots and amending the soil. Springtime is on its way and work is at my doorstep. But this day, I've got to start with the farm chores. Twice a day I have to feed the horses, and it's a little bit sad because we've just cleaned out the barn. For the last year or so, we've been nursing our old mare. She was born here, lived her entire life here. A beautiful horse. My boys rode her bareback when they were little. I trail rode her so many times. She was my pet, my friend. She'd come every time I called her, put her nose under my arm. We had to say goodbye to her a few weeks back. She would have been 30 next month. She was at the end of her life in horse years and had some medical problems that were causing her a lot of pain and really just totally disrupting everything else about the farm. We couldn't hardly leave the farm for a day because she had some nerve damage in her hips and she was falling down. And of course, when a horse falls down, if they lay down very long, they get pneumonia, they get sick, they can die. So we constantly had to come out and struggle to get her back on her feet. Said goodbye to her a couple of weeks ago. Now she's running free with her ancestors on fresh green pasture somewhere, I'm sure. But we still have to feed the other two. And as muddy as they are, you saw in the video last week, they still have to be fed every day. There's not enough grass out there to eat. They can't really feed themselves. And of course, we want to keep them healthy, so we supplement their feed. I built these feeder tubes based on what I'd seen going on in some of the local dairy farms. When they brought their dairy cattle into milk, they had automatic feed tubes that came down to a trough. In the wintertime, sometimes with the snow on the ground, the gates frozen to the ground, trying to get outside with a bucket and feed them over the fence was just a little tough. So we came up with this method of feeding them, which allows us to come up into the loft, bring the grain, stay inside, keep it dry. If it's raining, the grain is under the loafing shed where the horses hang out. And by pouring it down the pipes, it goes into a bucket where they feed right below. This time of year, we're starting to run a little bit low on hay. We've had to buy it quite a bit, but we've got enough to get through for the time being, and pretty soon the grass will take off and we'll be feeding a lot less hay. While I'm up in the loft this morning, I thought I'd let you in on another project that's underway. Behind me, there is this cage. Most of this was already here when we bought the farm. I don't know what they raised in it, puppies, chickens, baby chicks, maybe rabbits. But when we bought the farm, we put a roof on it and improved it and made it much more secure from predators. And here in a week or so, we're going to get a new delivery of baby chicks, and that's where we'll put our baby chicks. This is what we call our brooder pen. Right now, it's a little bit of a mess, but as you can see, we believe in the open air method. We think that having an open window for the chickens to get plenty of air makes them much healthier. Of course, when they first get here, they won't be big enough to use these roosts, but we'll keep them here until they're fully feathered out and they can be released. So we give them a place to roost at night and get used to doing that. Before they do that, they'll go up on a much smaller roost. This is the brooder box that I built just out of some plywood and some furring strips. I put a screen over one end, and the screen end is where we'll mount the heater light, the heat lamp, will actually hang down right over top of the screen to provide heat down inside the box. I also put a removable end on the box so that when the chicks get old enough that we can start letting them out, they can still get back under the heat if they need to. But in the first few weeks, they'll stay in the box pretty much all the time, and we'll just run a couple of screws in here and put that end on. It's pretty dirty right now. You can't really tell, but this is actually a piece of plexiglass. You can see down in to see the chicks. We use heat lamps. You can either use the clear type or the red type, either one. And we've got a little bar here that we hang it from that we can raise up and down to get the heat lamp up to the level it needs to be at to regulate the temperature. When you first get these chicks, they need to be kept at about 90 degrees down inside this box, so we'll put a thermometer in there to keep track of that. The lights will hang down over the screen, and the piece of plexiglass will go down over this end. We remove the plexiglass to feed them and water them. And then when they start to get a little bit older, we'll give them a dust bath. We'll put pine shavings on the floor in here, cover the floor when they start getting out, and we'll give them a dust bath in there with a little bit of, I'd say, little dirt, a little sand, and some diatomaceous earth to control mites and other things that animals on a farm tend to get. And then when they get a little bit older, we run a small board, a ladder, up to this perch, and behind that are some nesting boxes, which is where we will hopefully put a little nesting material in there, some straw, some hay, and allow the chicks to get in here and lay their first pullet eggs if we keep them in here that long. The bricks are up here for the purpose of building up the waterer, which we'll put in here. And the waterer needs to stay up above the floor enough that they don't hop up into it, and also they don't kick litter and other things into it. We've pretty much tried to vermin-proof this. Obviously, we can't keep out everything, room for a snake or a weasel, but by and large, we're trying to keep out the raccoons and other things of that sort. So we've come along and plugged up most of the holes, and using 1/4-inch hardware cloth. We've pretty well insulated this against any kind of predators that might get in. So this is our brooder cage, and this will be home to our baby chicks here, very soon, just in time for all the kids to come and play with baby chicks around Easter. And speaking of chicks, they're going to be outside today, even though, according to the thermometer, the temperature is about 38 degrees. They're going to like being out because the sun's out, and when the sun's out, they can scratch in some green grass and find bugs. They love being outside. Let me just take you down here and show you this. We do have a chicken lot. We try to confine them to that, particularly when we put mulch out around our flower beds, because there's nothing chickens like to do more than dig in soft mulch. So they've got this chicken lot that they can play in. They've got a little play area and a few things to get up on. We throw logs out there and let them dig around, scratch around, and they're wired in. And they also have a little thing down here that we built. It's really just hawk protection, just a cover here against the fence, and it allows them to run under something that'll protect them from overhead predators in the event that they're out here in the lot playing around. And you might notice that in addition to our heritage version of the laying hens that we've got, the barred rocks, down on the end you might see we got a brand new rooster. We had a broody hen this winter, and so one of the great folks that works with us came out to the farm and suggested that she bring one of her baby chicks and put it under the broody hen to try and make her feel a little more comfortable. Little did we know it was going to turn into a beautiful rooster who is just now starting to get his voice. You may have heard him in the background a minute ago. He doesn't really have a great crow yet, but he might. A little standoffish. We'll probably play with him some just to try and get him to be a little bit more friendly. Another part of our daily chores is, of course, to check on the eggs. And when springtime rolls around, these chickens who've been sitting all winter long and not laying a lot, boy, they really start to get after it. Now, when we add another 24 chickens to our flock, we'll be up to about 40. And that'll put us in a position where we'll have more eggs to sell. Right now, in the wintertime, we're only getting enough eggs really just to feed our family. But we're still getting good eggs. I set up our chicken coop so that we had a front room in which we collect our eggs, and that way we don't have to get in where the chickens are, and it helps us to be able to reach in and get them when they're ready. Well, there we have one that's sitting. I'm sure that there's an egg under her, but I won't bother her. She's probably in the process of laying. It's that time of the morning. But as you can see, oh, we've got some in here. Got a couple of eggs. Got a couple of eggs right in there. But you see, we use nest pads. These are made by a company called American Excelsior. And they're really nice because you want to get the eggs out as soon as the chickens lay them. If you don't, they kind of get dirty. They walk on them, sit on them, and a lot of things can happen. They crack them and so on and so forth. So we try to get them out twice a day. But the nesting pads are really nice because if they get dirty, they get soiled, you just pull it out, water it up, throw it away, put in a fresh one. They're not that expensive. American Excelsior Company is located in the Northwest. This is all spun aspen fiber with a little piece of brown craft paper on the back that helps to absorb liquids. We also salvaged this old nesting box that had been at the farm, and they seem to be able to use it pretty well, and they still sing the egg song when they lay. It doesn't take much in the way of sunshine to heat up the high tunnel, and even though it's only not quite 40 degrees out here today, I'm sure the temperature in there is going to be pretty high. So I'm going to probably have to roll up the curtains to cool it off a little bit because we're growing cool weather crops right now, lettuce and greens and spinach and kale, cabbage, things of that sort. So those are cool weather crops. They really don't respond well to high temperatures. And I mean, even if the high tunnel heats up on a day like this, it might be 39 degrees outside. It could get up to 90 in there very, very quickly. Behind me is our old orchard. I've done a lot of videos in there. I was very proud of that orchard when I planted it, going on 35 years ago now. We used it for our family. We sold some apples out of it for a while, but growing trees organically is very, very difficult in this region of the country, almost impossible. Too many pests and diseases, and really no adequate organic tools to fight it with. So we've let our trees be treated organically, and unfortunately we're going to lose some of them, but as you can see, this is the time of the year when we need to prune the trees, and we're making some progress. We've got a few trees left to go, and then this year we're also going to salvage a few water sprouts off of some of the trees that we really like the best, and our goal is to take those sprouts and graft them onto some rootstock, and hopefully that'll give us a chance to make some brand new trees with some old sprouts and keep great flavor alive. I'm standing under what all winter long is our wood shed. It is usually filled all the way from front to back, top to bottom with wood. We burned a lot of wood this year, and so now when it gets empty, we repurpose it for our equipment shed for the garden. I just went down to Earth Tools, which is located here in Kentucky, right here in Owen County, just the other day, and picked up, I guess you can see it behind me, that blue tiller over there. That's a BCS walk-behind tractor. And I had them install, if you can see it on the back, what they call their TDS system. The Earth Tools TDS system takes the BCS tractor and a tiller on the back and adds this roller. And the roller allows you to control the precise depth at which you're tilling. I said in one of the earlier videos this year that we were going to regulate how deep we tilled so we didn't churn up the soil. This is going to be an important component of that new process. Let's go in the greenhouse and see what the temperature's doing and check on those seeds we put in last night. I set the heat mat to a temperature of 80 degrees, which is the germination temperature I need for the peppers that we seeded. It'll help get the tomatoes up, but as soon as they get up, we're going to have to cut that temperature back. Wow, it's already almost 75 degrees in here first thing this morning, just with the solar heating. Well, it's obvious that they're warm. They're under their humidity domes, and there's humidity collecting on the inside of the dome, so they are warm, and golly, what a great day. A little sunshine coming in here, reflecting off this interior. Give them a little extra warmth, a little real sunshine. It's going to be good for everything. On a day like today, I'm going to have to peel back this low tunnel laying over top of our Salanova lettuce. Not because it's really going to hurt it that much, but because if it's 75 or 80 degrees in here, even if the sides are rolled up, that low tunnel there is going to push the temperature way up underneath there. It's a good humidity dome, and it'll help a lot for that. But to be honest with you, they don't need to be that warm. Can't wait till we can get our water line hooked up permanently instead of using a hose. This time of the year, we have to run a hose and unhook it and drain it every night, or else we end up with a frozen hose. And that's no good. Turn this valve on now out here. It sends the water inside. It's really a nice day. The wind's kicking up and a little bit cold out, but boy, the sun sure just makes it so nice to be outside. And I don't know, there's just something about these warm days in late winter that make doing farm chores not so bad. But boy, oh boy, oh boy, everything's just so wet. There's so much water standing everywhere from those storms we had. I mean, for guys like me who are anxious to get farming, I mean, this ground is just, it's just too wet to do anything. I've turned the compost pile once already this winter. It's time to turn it again. Some people have wondered why we raise sunflowers. Besides the fact that they're beautiful and they attract pollinators and they feed the bees, and people love to come and take photos in them, and they attract people to the farm. In the wintertime, they provide feed for the chickens. Here goes, ladies and gentlemen. The shadows are getting long. Day is drawing to an end. It's been another wonderful day in the country. Chicken coop is getting a little bit on the dark side, and the hens and the bright red rooster are heading in for the night. There's a lot of things to think about, a lot of work to be done. Finish up that orchard. Got to prune off all those old blackberry canes and get that ready for the season. Boy, there's more work. Got all these beds, these raised beds to fill with compost, and get the garden out front ready with our new BCS tractor and the TDS system that we just picked up at Earth Tools, Kentucky. Boy, this is exciting to look at. And then there's an entire farm to tend to. A lot to do. Fields to look at, plans to be made, a home to live in and relax in and bring family to. But when it's all done at the end of the day, you feel better for it. And you feel better knowing there's even more to do when the sun rises again. So it's been a pretty productive day. I was able to get the compost pile turned, feed the horses, feed the chickens, take care of some trays in the greenhouse, water the greenhouse, catch a little bit of the disappointing UK-Tennessee game, and get a lot done around the farm. But that's what it's like. It's just a full day, every day, of just trying to get ahead so that when you have one of those rainy days, or you have another storm blow through, or something else happens that you don't expect, that you can be ahead of the game just a little bit. It's nice to think about taking time off and enjoying yourself and not doing much, maybe relaxing all day. But if you live on a farm and you're producing food for people and you're taking care of animals and you take your job as the steward of the land seriously, you know, I do. And that means that when I look around and see things that need to be done, there's just something in me that says, go do it. Now's the time. And it may be the last weekend of winter. It was cold out, but it was nice in the sun. It was pretty. It was wet, but you could get around. And so there's just something special about being able to take that time and do something to make the world a little bit better than the way you found it. And that's what it means to be a steward of the land. That's kind of what I think living in the country means to me. And I'm surprised that more people who come and visit the country just see the pretty parts, and they wouldn't want to do the work because they don't think the work is fun. but it's physically rewarding. You feel better after you work all day. It's spiritually rewarding because you get to see the change of the season. You get to be up close and personal when the birds change. You go from strictly winter birds to spring birds. Start to see a little bit of yellow in the finches. And there's just something special about living in the country where you're up close and personal with nature. So I know some people who live in town think, gee, I wouldn't want to be out there in all that muddy mess. I wouldn't want to be out there doing all that hard work. I wouldn't mind visiting a farm, but I really don't want to do that. You don't know what you're missing. You really don't know what you're missing. There's just something special about working, feeling a little tired at the end of the day, knowing you've gotten something accomplished, that you're going to make the world a better place, and that you're going to make it pretty for all you guys when you come to visit this summer. Well, thanks for being with us. See you again next time we post. Keep up with what we're doing on our website, www.steepleviewfarm.net. And whatever you do, if this is the first time you've been on this channel, please subscribe. There's a little bell you can hit. That way you'll get noticed when new content posts. See you next time.